When I was 12, my parents sold our house. They bought another one, but the owners weren't able to move right away, so my dad had to find us a place to live in the meantime. For a few months, we ended up renting an old country farmhouse outside the city, set back from the highway and surrounded by fields and trees. I had no idea of its history or who owned it, and I don't really care to investigate now that I'm an adult. The house would have been pretty if it had been maintained better, but it wasn't bad. It was built solidly, so nothing creaked much except for the old screen doors, and a little WD-40 fixed that. Dad said it was really cheap to rent because there were hardly any furnishings in it, and it was a long commute into town. Plus, whoever owned it was unable to sell it. They were happy with whatever they could make. Living there was fun at first, even though we weren't allowed to bring many toys. I was used to the suburbs. Now I felt like a regular country boy, running around in the trees and skipping stones in the murky old pond where cows once cooled themselves off. Because most of our possessions were in storage, it was kind of like camping out, too. We had electricity and a stove and a fridge, but since the cabinets and drawers were all empty, we usually ate off paper plates using plastic utensils. The one thing my mom could not live without, though, was her big dry erase board. Practically the first thing she did when we arrived was hang it on the fridge. In the days before everyone had cell phones with calendars and reminder apps, the dry erase board was a fixture in our family. "I'll put it on my other brain, Tommy," Mom would always tell me whenever I asked for something. Her other brain was the board, of course, and let's say my name is Tommy, even though it isn't. Mom would keep track of everything on there, writing down bulleted to-dos with red, blue, and green erasable markers. I suppose it would have made more sense to use an actual calendar, but she wanted everyone to be aware of what was going on, so she was constantly updating her to-do list in big, all-caps letters. At some point, being the incredibly funny kids that we were, my younger sister and I started adding silly things to the list. When no one was around, Laura would add something to do. Then if I saw it later, I would tack on something, and vice versa. Mom's to-do list would end up reading like this: bread, eggs, dentist appointment Thursday, call Ann back, finish time machine, kill Hitler, or make insurance payment, bananas, get stamps, return Laura to the zoo, tell Tommy he's cloned from boogers, or milk, cereal, toilet paper, change oil, become president, nuke the moon men. We never mentioned it to one another or referred to it, and somehow this made it much, much funnier. Mom played it straight too. I only saw her roll her eyes once before sighing and dutifully wiping our additions off the list. I wanted to say, "But Mom, Hitler's still in my textbooks," but that would have spoiled it. About halfway through our stay at the farmhouse, Laura started to get really into reading things like the Goosebumps series. Anything spooky or scary that was geared towards kids, she loved it. I was absorbed with playing outside or building engineering masterpieces up in my room with Legos, while she hung around the house devouring story after story. She checked out armfuls of books at the library, as many as she could carry. I rarely saw anything but the top of her head bent down behind a spine-tingling cover. As a result of this, I noticed, our silent dry erase exchanges grew a little darker. I played along. She was trying to creep me out, since she knew I was kind of a wuss when it came to scary things. Plus, living in the secluded countryside in an old house was like a scene straight from one of her books. The to-do list would now go like this: Tuesday, recital. Soap, make lunches. Lock the doors. Sleep lightly. And Grandma's birthday. Church sale. Call office again. Check under bed. Stay out of the basement. And cookies. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, practice at 4. Dry cleaning. Practice your screaming. Leave this house. Slowly we proceeded to get a little more twisted. Whatever Laura added to the list in her blocky childish letters, I just tried to top it. After all, I wasn't reading those scary books, so I figured I might as well turn it back on her. She was welcome to give herself nightmares. One Saturday, as it was getting close to noon, I came inside from playing in the woods, ready for lunch. I went in through the kitchen door and saw my mom sipping tea at our dinner table / folding card table. I knew the look on her face. She was furious and trying to calm herself down. I cringed a little before asking, "What's wrong?" "Your little sister," she started. Then she pursed her lips and waved me away. I swear I saw steam coming out of her nostrils. Dad had been gone all week to a conference, so she had no one to vent to. It was going to be a long day. Still, I was relieved I was in the clear. I zipped upstairs to find out how I could tease Laura about whatever had happened. When I opened her bedroom door, I had to duck as a book came flying at my head. "Hey, what's that for?" I asked. "You got me in trouble, jerk-face," she said. She was hissing to keep her voice down so as not to upset Mom any further. "Me? What'd I do?" "You know what. You wrote on her dry erase board with a permanent marker. She thinks I'm lying. Go down and tell the truth right now." I ducked again and closed the door as another book came at me. I didn't know what she was talking about. I couldn't have used a permanent marker by mistake. There weren't any in the house. We used to keep a drawer full of things like that in our old kitchen, but that was all packed away. The drawers here were still pretty bare. Downstairs, Mom had retreated to the living room to watch TV, so I quietly snooped around. The dry erase board wasn't on the fridge, but I quickly spotted it over by the trash can. I pulled it out and read what was on there. It took a moment to register. Then I ran back upstairs. "Why did you write that?" I asked my sister. "I didn't, Tommy. You did." "It wasn't me, so it had to be you." "Liar," she hissed. "You know it wasn't me, 'cause I got bored writing stuff on there weeks ago. You keep trying to creep me out just 'cause I'm reading scary books." That stopped me. "Wait, when was the last time you wrote on the board?" "I don't know. It was something stupid about nuking the moon. Nobody ever laughed, so I quit playing. Go away. I just want to read." I stood there for a minute gaping at her. Then I slowly backed out of her room and went downstairs to try really, really hard to explain to my mom that neither I nor Laura had used a permanent black marker to add the following items to the to-do list in childish blocky letters. "Tell Tommy to pick up his Legos. They hurt. Laura's room needs a nightlight."